Before you listen to this, understand one thing clearly. Nothing has power over you unless you give it permission. What people call demonic influence is often nothing more than fear, exhaustion, unguarded emotions, and a mind that has forgotten how to be still. For centuries, women have used fire, scent, and intention, not to beg for protection, but to reclaim their space, not to escape darkness, but to bring light where they once avoided looking. Today, this is not about incense. This is about removing what no longer belongs in your body, your mind, and your life. When we speak about fire and incense, many people immediately drift into superstition, as if the smoke itself is meant to fight something invisible outside of them. But this is not the teaching. Fire has never been about chasing away darkness. Fire reveals, fire exposes, fire makes clear what is already present. When a woman lights incense with awareness, she is not performing magic, she is setting a direction for her mind. The flame becomes a point of focus, a signal to the nervous system that this moment matters, and in that moment, the body listens. What people often call demonic influence is not an external force waiting to attack. It is scattered attention, unresolved emotion, suppressed anger, chronic fear, and exhaustion that has been ignored for too long. These states weaken posture, breath, and clarity. When posture collapses and breath becomes shallow, the mind loses authority. Burning incense with intention is a way of reclaiming that authority. It is a declaration. This space is mine. This body is mine. This mind is mine. Scent is powerful because it does not argue with you. It bypasses thought and speaks directly to memory and instinct. Certain natural resins and herbs calm the nervous system, sharpen awareness, and ground scattered energy. But understand this clearly, the incense does not do the work for you. It supports the moment when you choose to be present. Without presence, smoke is just smoke. With presence, it becomes a reminder to return to yourself. This is why intention matters more than belief. You do not need to believe in anything mystical for this to work. You only need honesty. When you light incense, ask yourself what you are really trying to clear. Is it fear you refuse to face? Is it resentment you carry silently? Is it fatigue that has become your normal state? Fire cannot be lied to. It responds to clarity. The clearer your intention, the steadier your breath becomes. The steadier your breath, the quieter the inner noise grows. Many women are taught to look outward for protection, as if safety comes from avoidance. But strength comes from presence. When you sit with fire, when you inhale deeply and allow the scent to anchor you, you are training the mind to stay instead of run. Darkness loses its grip when it is no longer avoided. Attention dissolves what fear feeds on. So remember this, burning incense is not a ritual of defense, it is a practice of ownership. You are not asking for permission to be at peace, you are claiming it. And when your intention is steady, your posture aligned, and your breath calm, nothing that does not belong to you can remain. The sense of smell is quiet, but it is direct. It does not ask for permission from the mind. It does not wait for logic to agree. It moves straight into memory, emotion, and instinct. This is why a single scent can calm you instantly or disturb you without warning. Before you understand what is happening, your body has already responded. Breathing changes, muscles soften or tighten, the nervous system shifts. This is not imagination, this is biology, and it is powerful. When we talk about removing negative influences, we must first understand that most disturbances do not begin in thought. They begin deeper, where habits, memories, and unprocessed experiences live. The conscious mind is slow, the subconscious is fast. Scent reaches the subconscious directly. That is why certain natural herbs and resins have been used for centuries, not as superstition, but as tools to stabilize the inner state, what many people describe as darkness, heaviness, or an oppressive presence is often the result of an overstimulated nervous system. Too much noise, too much pressure, too little rest. When the body stays in constant alert, the mind starts searching for threats even when none are present. Fear becomes familiar. Tension feels normal. In that state, imagination fills the gaps and the mind creates stories to explain the discomfort. The incense, does not remove a demon. It calms the system that keeps inventing one. Certain scents slow the breath naturally. When the breath slows, the heart rate follows. When the heart rate settles, the mind regains clarity. This is how authority returns, not through force, but through regulation. A grounded body cannot be easily disturbed. A steady breath leaves little space for intrusive thoughts to dominate. But again, this only works when attention is present. If incense burns in the background while the mind remains distracted, its effect is weak. The power comes when you sit with it, when you inhale consciously, when you allow the scent to anchor you in the moment. This trains awareness to stay in the body instead of wandering into fear-based thinking. Understand this deeply. Clarity is threatening to chaos. Confusion survives when the mind is scattered. As awareness sharpens, confusion dissolves. This is why grounding practices feel uncomfortable at first. When calm arrives, suppressed emotions rise to the surface, not to harm you, but to be released. Many mistake this discomfort for danger and stop too early, but if you remain present, the system resets. So the scent becomes a guide, not a solution. It reminds the body how to feel safe again, and when safety returns, imagination quiets, fear loses fuel, and what once felt overpowering reveals itself as nothing more than unprocessed tension. Many people search for a single act that will change everything. One ritual, one mixture, one moment that promises permanent relief. But life does not work this way, and neither does the mind. Purification is not an event. It is a discipline. What you practice once may bring comfort, but what you practice daily shapes who you become. Incense, like any tool, only reveals its true power when it is part of a rhythm, not a reaction. The mind collects dust quietly. Every conversation you avoid, every emotion you suppress, every night you sleep without rest adds a layer. You do not notice it at first, but over time, clarity fades, patience shortens, and the body carries a constant weight it cannot explain. People call this darkness. In truth, it is neglect, and neglect is never removed instantly. It is reversed through consistent attention. Burning incense regularly is not about cleansing the air. It is about marking a pause in your day where awareness returns to the body. When done daily, it trains the nervous system to recognize stillness as familiar rather than foreign. At first, silence feels uncomfortable. The mind resists slowing down because it has learned to survive in chaos. This is why discipline matters. Not force, but consistency. When you return to the same practice day after day, something changes. The body begins to anticipate calm. The breath deepens more easily. The mind settles faster. What once required effort becomes natural. This is when purification truly begins. Not because something is being pushed out, but because balance is being restored. Many women underestimate the power of small, repeated acts. They wait until they feel overwhelmed before trying to clear their space. But by then, the system is already exhausted. Discipline prevents accumulation. It keeps emotional residue from settling too deeply. It creates a baseline of clarity that makes disturbances easier to recognize and address early. Understand this clearly. No incense can compensate for a chaotic lifestyle. If sleep is neglected, boundaries are weak, and emotions are constantly suppressed, no smoke will protect you. Discipline means aligning daily actions with inner stability. The incense supports this alignment. It reminds you to slow down, to breathe, to check in with yourself before the day pulls you apart. This is why purification must be simple and repeatable. Complicated rituals fail because they rely on motivation, and motivation fades. Discipline survives because it is built into routine. A few minutes each day, done with sincerity, is more powerful than an elaborate ceremony performed once in desperation. Over time, you stop needing to remove anything. Clarity becomes your natural state, awareness becomes your protection, and when discipline holds your center steady, chaos has nowhere to attach. Sensitivity is often misunderstood. Many women are taught that being sensitive means being weak, exposed, or easily affected. This is not true. Sensitivity is awareness. It is the ability to perceive subtle changes in mood, environment, and intention, but awareness without boundaries becomes exhaustion. When everything is felt and nothing is filtered, the system overloads. What people later describe as heaviness or intrusion usually begins here, not because something attacked them, but because nothing was protected. Protection is not isolation. It is discernment. It is knowing what deserves access to your inner space and what does not. When boundaries are unclear, energy leaks quietly. Attention is drained through overgiving, unresolved guilt, unspoken resentment, and the habit of putting yourself last. Over time, the body feels tired without reason, the mind feels crowded, and emotions swing without warning. This is not a spiritual problem. It is a nervous system asking for structure. Incense, when used with awareness, becomes a signal to close what has been left open. It marks a transition from the external world back into yourself. As the scent fills the space, the body receives a cue to soften inward, to stop scanning outward for approval, danger, or validation. This moment is important. It teaches the system that rest is allowed, that you do not have to be available to everything and everyone at all times. Many women confuse openness with kindness, but openness without boundaries leads to depletion, not compassion. True kindness requires strength, and strength requires containment. When you sit with incense, breathing slowly, you are practicing containment. You are telling the body, I am here and I am enough. This alone begins to repair the leaks. Emotional boundaries are just as important as physical ones. Unprocessed emotions linger in the body, especially when they are dismissed or minimized. Incense does not remove these emotions. It creates a safe enough space for them to surface without overwhelming you. This is protection, not avoidance, but regulated exposure, feeling without being consumed. Some fear that setting boundaries will make them cold or distant. In reality, it makes connection cleaner. When your energy is not scattered, presence becomes stronger, words carry more weight, silence feels fuller. You stop absorbing what does not belong to you. And when you no longer carry what is not yours, there is less internal noise for fear to hide behind. Protection, then, is not about defending against an enemy. It is about conserving what is valuable. Your attention, your emotional capacity, your inner calm. Incense is simply a tool that supports this practice, reminding you to return inward, to seal what has been leaking, to rest inside your own center. Darkness does not appear suddenly. It grows quietly in the places we avoid, in the corners of the mind where discomfort was pushed aside, where pain was never given language, where fatigue became normal and silence became heavy. What people fear is not darkness itself, but the act of turning toward it. Because to look honestly requires responsibility, and responsibility removes excuses. Many imagine darkness as something aggressive, something that attacks. In truth, it feeds on neglect. It stays alive when awareness is absent. When emotions are ignored, they do not disappear. They settle into the body. They tighten the chest, shorten the breath, harden the jaw. Over time, this tension becomes familiar, and familiarity is mistaken for identity. This is just how I am, people say, but it is not who you are. It is what you have been carrying. When incense is burned with awareness, it does not chase darkness away. It invites attention into the space where darkness has been hiding. The scent becomes a gentle guide, drawing the mind inward instead of outward, and when attention arrives, darkness weakens, not because it is defeated, but because it is seen. Awareness is light, not dramatic, not forceful, but steady, and steady light leaves no place for shadows to stay unnoticed. Many people avoid stillness because stillness reveals. In silence, the mind cannot distract itself. Suppressed emotions rise, unanswered questions appear. This is where fear begins to speak louder. But fear only survives when it is mistaken for danger. When you sit and breathe, when you remain present as discomfort surfaces, something important happens. The body learns that feeling is not fatal. The mind learns that awareness is safe. This is why darkness loses power when it is faced calmly. Panic feeds it. Resistance strengthens it, but quiet observation dissolves it. The moment you stop running, the chase ends. The moment you stop fighting, the tension releases. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable, even understandable. Incense supports this process by anchoring attention in the present moment. Each breath becomes a reminder to stay, to feel without judgment, to allow sensations to move instead of freezing them in place. Over time, the nervous system rewires itself. What was once avoided becomes approachable. What was once heavy becomes lighter, simply because it is no longer carried alone in the dark. Understand this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you for having darkness. It is part of being human. The problem is not its presence, but the lack of relationship with it. When ignored, it grows louder. When acknowledged, it softens. Awareness does not destroy darkness, it integrates. So do not seek to banish what you have not yet understood. Turn toward it calmly, breathe steadily, let attention do its quiet work. What is seen clearly no longer needs to hide. Everything we have spoken about leads here, because in the end, no external tool has the authority to decide what stays or leaves your life. Alignment does. When the body, breath, and mind move in different directions, confusion takes over, energy scatters, fear finds space. But when these three come into agreement, something settles deeply. You stop feeling invaded. You stop feeling pulled apart. You feel whole. Alignment begins in the body. The way you sit, the way you stand, the way you breathe sends constant signals to the mind. A collapsed posture tells the nervous system that it is under threat. A shallow breath tells the heart to remain alert. Over time, this state becomes normal, and from that state, the mind interprets everything as danger. No incense can correct this if the body remains disconnected. But when posture lifts gently and breath deepens naturally, the system remembers stability. The mind follows the body more than most people realize. When breath is calm and posture is upright, thoughts slow without force, clarity returns without effort. This is alignment, not positive thinking, not denial, but coherence. And in coherence, authority is restored. You no longer feel like something is happening to you. You feel present inside what is happening. This is why nothing external truly has power over you. Influence only enters where alignment is lost. When attention drifts constantly into the past or future, when emotions are suppressed or exaggerated, when the body is ignored, gaps form. Those gaps are what people fear. But when alignment is practiced daily, those gaps close. Incense plays a small but meaningful role here. It becomes a cue, a reminder to return to body, to the breath, to the present moment. It marks a transition from scattered attention to unified awareness. But understand this clearly. The incense does not create alignment. You do. The incense simply points you back to it. When alignment is present, the need to protect disappears, not because danger exists, but because stability does. A centered mind does not invite intrusion. A regulated nervous system does not amplify fear. A grounded body does not imagine enemies where there are none. Strength becomes quiet. Confidence becomes natural. You stop searching for signs of disturbance and start living from clarity. This is the highest form of removal, not forceful, not dramatic, but complete. When alignment holds, there is nothing to remove. What does not belong cannot attach. What once felt overwhelming loses relevance. And what once frightened you becomes something you can observe calmly without losing yourself. So remember this: tools support, rituals remind, but alignment decides. When you stand rooted in yourself, nothing external has authority over your inner world.